So this is the last conference we will have, and it's a reflection on John 21, and it's Jesus who forms Peter as a leader and as a disciple. John 21, 15 to 23. If you have your Bible with you, you can read that after the conference. And it's a beautiful story. It's one of the most dramatic, very moving story. And you know how it began. After the resurrection, after the death of Jesus, rather, the disciples went back to Galilee. They went back to Galilee and resumed their old life. As I've said, when you don't know what to do, you go back to your old life. So they went back fishing, and they saw somebody standing by the shore, asking them whether they have caught anything. And they said nothing. And it was the beloved disciple who recognized the risen Christ. And when the beloved disciple said that it is the Lord, Peter jumped into the water, swam to the shore, and there Jesus was waiting for them with breakfast, ready. Breakfast. So Jesus invites them to share a meal and fellowship with them. But that's not really what I want to focus on. What I want to focus on is the way I imagine it is after breakfast. Jesus turns to Peter and said, let's go for a walk. We have an unfinished business. And so they went for a walk along the shore, along the beach, and you know the story. Jesus asked Peter 3 times, do you love me? And Peter would say, yes, Lord, I love you. But what is important to keep in mind is that Jesus, as Peter remembers very well, Jesus calls Peter by his old name, Simon, son of John. Remember, it was Jesus who gave him a new name. From now on, you will be called Peter. But then, at this moment, Jesus went back to his old name, Simon, son of John. Do you love me? Now Jesus, as I've said, calls him son of God, as if he were no longer a disciple. He went back to the pre-call of Peter. And then, you know the story, the question 3 times, Simon, son of John, do you truly love me more than this? Now we are translating a Greek word to English. I often say there is always something lost when you translate. So first and foremost, what does this word "this" mean? What is it referring to? What does this refer to? This. This. Is it referring to the net? Is it referring to the fishing boat? I think the question when we read the story is a question to ourselves: what do we love the most? What do we love? Do you love me more than these? So for us, we have to ask that question. What do you love the most? Because the answer you give here really points to the heart of your vocation. This question gets at the center point of discipleship and reveals a person's heart. Like one time at table we were discussing, I don't know the exact context of our discussion, but I was saying that, when our house was in danger of being burned down because there was fire in Caloocan. And I went to my room, I opened the cabinet, and I looked at my things there, the clothes, and I said, what am I going to take? It was just as if I was paralyzed. And then I decided I'm going to take only one thing. It's a book that I bought in Italy. The title is Italy. That's all. I'm willing to lose everything except that book. So that's what I love the most. And then when I was in the junior aid, I was in charge of the junior aid, we always asked myself, if there's an earthquake, let me I want to take my computer. So it reveals the heart, you know. So every time we are faced with a temptation, this question is raised. What do we love the most? What do we love the most? Every time we become preoccupied with even the good things God has given us, this question is raised. What do we love the most? So, when Jesus, do you love me more than this? Probably Jesus meant, do you love me more than the other disciples love me? Because according to the gospel, if you look back at the story in the Gospel of John, Peter was always boasting about his love for Jesus. You remember that? He was always boasting. Peter had boasted that though all others will fall away, he would not. He will remain with Jesus. So Jesus' question, therefore, goes even deeper than the issue of false attachments. It's not just our attachment to things. It gets to the root of all sin, pride. Pride. Peter replies, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." Peter does not claim to love Jesus more than the others do, which suggests that he has benefited from having reflected on his shameful denials of the Lord. He does not claim anymore, no, I love you more than the others. Huh? This response is typical of true discipleship, for it is humble and focuses on the Lord's own knowledge. Lord, you know. You know, the Lord knows. Okay? Peter does not claim to truly love Jesus. He claims only to love him. But this is not clear in English. So we have to refer to the Greek, because the Greek word makes it clearer. Because there are two verbs for love used in this story. There are many words for love in Greek. But for this particular story, you encounter two words in Greek. Agapao, which is bordering on divine love. You know the word agape. Agapao. So, the Bible translates as truly love. Truly, do you truly love? But in the Bible, the Greek Bible, it says agape. And Peter always responds, phileo. So every time Jesus uses agape, Peter would say phileo. He would not respond to the same word that Jesus would use. Now, some biblical scholars do not see the difference between agape and phileo. Let me make that clear. Not all biblical scholars believe that there is a difference. But there seems to be a pattern here. So, Jesus asked Peter twice whether he loves him agape, and each time Peter responds that yes, he does love him, phileo. In asking Simon using agape, Jesus, it seems, it would appear, Jesus is giving Simon a chance to boast. Huh? Giving him a chance to boast the way he did before. Simon did not take the bait. Then Jesus switches to phileo. Jesus, did you get it? Jesus kept using agape, but Peter kept replying, phileo. Jesus using agape, he was really testing Peter. You know, the way Peter would always, I love you more than the other disciples love you. But no, Peter did not take the bait. He remained in the phileo. And so Jesus, on the third time, went back, started using Phileuse. As if to say, okay, Simon, for now, Phileuse will do. Phileuse. In other words, Peter was not boastful when Jesus gave him the opportunity to be. But by the third time Jesus asks whether he loves him, John's Gospel says Peter is hurt, that is deeply grieved. Deeply grieved. Jesus, asking 3 times, recalls the 3 denials, and Peter's pride is bruised. For me, Jesus is really giving Peter a chance to say, I am sorry. But you know how difficult it is to say, I'm sorry. Right? It is very difficult to say, I'm sorry. So as long as you're not able to say, I'm sorry, you are filled with guilt as if your hands are tied with a chain. And Jesus, by asking these 3 questions, is giving Peter, Simon, son of John, a chance to say, I'm sorry, by loosening the chain that bound his hands. Giving him a chance, loosening. So Jesus is also like a healer, performing painful but necessary surgery. To say I'm sorry is for Peter, not for Jesus. Until we're able to say I'm sorry, guilt remains. And that's why the sacrament of penance is that it gives us an opportunity to express in words what is truly in our hearts. As I always tell my students, until you're able to say it, you don't know it. You only think you know. You have to articulate what's in your heart and in your mind. So saying sorry, you articulate what is there. It's necessary for healing. This is what John of the Ladder, 6th century, refers to as a joy-producing sorrow. The repentance that enables one to experience the Lord's love and salvation. Without such brokenness, we are full of self and unable to hear and receive the guidance of Jesus. So in response to this question, the searing 3rd question, Peter says, Lord, you know all things. You know that I love you. No. Again, the use of the word know, there are 2 different words for know used in this text. In the first 2 responses, Peter said, you know, si oidas. You know, si oidas. You know that I love you. But in the 3rd response, Peter uses a different Greek word for know. He uses si ginoskes. Si ginoskes, that I love you. What is so different about ginosko? Huh? Ginosko is very profound. Refers to you must be able to see. That's what it means. You must be able to see. And added to that is all things. You must be able to see all things. So when Peter says, you know that I love you, in the 3rd question, what he's really saying is, you can see through me. You can see through me. You know me through and through. Very profound. It's not just plain knowledge, but you can see through it. You can see what is in my heart. And deep down, you know that I love you. It suggests Peter's humility. Do you see how he has become better and more sober? No longer self-willed or contradicting? Says Chrysostom. Peter, by saying that, you know, you can see through me. You know everything. Peter is dying to self and finding his confidence only in the Lord. So after such profession of love, Jesus gives a similar command using different words. First, he said, feed my lambs. In the second question, he says, feed my sheep. In the third command, he put the two together. The pattern suggests we have a comprehensive image of shepherding. Jesus himself is the good shepherd, and now he commissions Peter to take care of the flock that belongs to Jesus, for they are my lambs and my sheep. Beautiful. The key qualification for his task is a love for Jesus that is characterized by humility, that Peter learned in weakness, dependence, and obedience. Those are the key qualifications for a good leader, for a good disciple. Obviously, Peter had a devotion to Jesus, but he was still full of self-will and was trusting himself to the front. Lagi siya frontline na siya, frontline. Such a profound attitude of heart would spell disaster for the community. Think about it. Think about that. If you have a member of the community who is always trying siyang bida, always has to be a bida, spells disaster. It's going to be a disaster for the community. The letter attributed to Peter, beautiful, shows the apostle addressing the elders of the communities. And he does so as fellow elders. Fellow elders. It's not no longer about them. And encourages them these beautiful words. To be shepherds of God's flock that is under your care, serving as overseers, not lording it over those entrusted to you, but being examples to the flock. And when the chief shepherd appears, you will receive the crown of glory that will never fade away. That's a new spirit. Here is authority exercised in humility and conscious of the chief shepherd. So earlier, Jesus told him, where I am going, you cannot follow now, but you will follow later. That's the words of Jesus to Peter. So for the second time, this is his second call. For the second time, Jesus calls Peter to follow him. Follow me. After Peter professes his obedient love, Jesus spells out the cost of the blood. And very frightening. You will stretch out your hands, and someone else will bless you and lead you where you do not want to go. An explicit contrast between Peter's life of self-will and coming under the will of another. Such submission is going to include being taken where he does not want to go. Then Jesus calls Peter to follow him. The second call. This is a call to recommit himself. In the face of each new revelation, one's commitment to Jesus must be renewed as one learns more of Christ and his call. And that's why it's fitting that we have a renewal this morning. In each phase of revelation, one's commitment to Jesus must be renewed as one learns more of Christ and His call. There will always be a second call for all of us. Thank you.
Please don't forget to like and subscribe
to our YouTube channel,
Oblate TV.